The kettlebell gunslinger is a great movement to develop power, and it's less technical than movements like the kettlebell snatch, which makes it a great exercise for those of you still mastering the fundamentals of the kettlebell. So if you're looking for a great exercise to bridge the gap between beginner and intermediate kettlebell power exercises, then this would be a great one to add to your arsenal. With that said, let's dive in, fam. First of all, the setup for our gunslinger is just like the setup for our single arm kettlebell swing. We take the big toe of one foot to the body of the kettlebell, the big toe of the second foot to the heel of the first foot, we widen our feet out to roughly shoulder width apart, and then we hinge at the hips with a nice flat back. Once you're here, hike the kettlebell and extend your hips until you feel your butt cheeks squeeze together.
Wow!
Here's where the major difference between the single arm kettlebell swing and the gunslinger occurs. When it comes to the gunslinger, our elbow stays nice and tight to our body as we row that kettlebell towards our hip. When we perform a swing, the upper arm peels away from the body here. While keeping the elbow tight to our body in the gunslinger, we actually pull the kettlebell towards our hip. Now, as we pull the kettlebell towards the top of the hip, we want to make sure our upper arm is parallel to the floor, and we also want to make sure that the hand that is holding the kettlebell is facing our body's midline. So if this movement pattern looks familiar and you're asking yourself, can I use that drill to dial in my kettlebell clean? Does a duck with a boner drag weeds? Hell yeah, you can. And it's actually one of my favorite exercises to use to progress towards the kettlebell clean. Because learning to pull towards your hip transitions nicely to the timing of when to insert your hand through the window for the kettlebell clean. Now check this out. See the carryover? Yeah, but what does my opposite hand do? Well, you have a couple choices here. Before we're the regular gunslinger, I like to use my opposite hand as a target so I know my upper hand is parallel to the floor, which is particularly useful for progressing towards the kettlebell clean. However, there's another variation of the gunslinger I refer to as the stop and go gunslinger. And for this variation, the opposite hand is used to catch the bell, which makes for an epic drill, by the way, if you're someone who struggles with that connection between forearm and hip and the timing of it with movements like your swings, your cleans, or your snatches. By giving yourself a pause at the top, you can practice allowing your forearm to make contact with your hip without having to string multiple reps together. And by the way, this connection here between the forearm and the hip is crucial for minimizing stress in the lower back and maximizing power from the hips. Which makes this a good time to remind you that this is indeed a power exercise, meaning it is meant to be done in an explosive fashion. That was excessive. So if you found this explanation of the gunslinger helpful and you want to keep the weight off for good, like and subscribe and keep my page for more content on the regular. Until next time, stay humble, stay hungry, stay happy. Cheers.